We had a very productive engagement with the president. Their new foreign minister is coming on board, wasn't able to join us at the NATO gathering a few days ago, but look forward to interacting with her as well. We've obviously had some disagreements with Canada in regards to the nature of trade between our countries. But I think there's hope here that we can work something out on the trade front with them, although that's not something that I'm involved in negotiating. And then we have a lot of other mutual interests. As an example, national security on our shared obligations to NORAD and the defense of the North American continent. They've been a strong partner, and we look forward to building on that. And one of the most encouraging things is that Canada, that has historically not spent a lot of money, at one point less than 1% of their GDP on the military, it's now increasing, has made a pledge to get to 2% and has signed on to the NATO pledge to get to 5% over the next decade. So I think that's going to strengthen our partnership as well in providing security to our hemisphere.
Welcome back, Patriots. This is Right View Nation, the voice of those who still believe America should come first, not last. And today, we've got something worth talking about. Finally a voice of reason in the Senate saying what we've been screaming for years. Why in God's name are we paying to be insulted, undermined, and sold out by international organizations who hate us? That's right. Senator Marco Rubio stepped up and said what needs to be said. It's time to pull the plug on these globalist parasites that leech off American taxpayers while pushing anti-American garbage. Let me break this down for you folks. We have over 40 international organizations receiving American tax dollars. Let that sink in. You work your tail off through inflation, job uncertainty, rising gas prices, and the government takes your hard-earned money, only to send it off to some bloated, self-righteous global body that spends its time bashing the U.S., coddling dictators, and pushing far-left ideology on sovereign nations. Tell me again why we're funding the UN Human Rights Council, which, get this, is literally filled with the worst violators of human rights on the planet. Countries like China, Cuba, Venezuela, they sit there in judgment of us, of you, of our soldiers, of our families, and we're supposed to just shut up and pay the bill. Rubio called it out plain and simple. These organizations are being used as anti-American platforms funded by Americans. And it's not just wrong. It's treasonous on a bureaucratic level. And look, I've had it with the UN charade. I've had it with American dollars going toward these international pity parties where countries that rely on our military and our money sit there and demonize us for securing our border, for defending our Constitution, for having the audacity to believe in God, freedom, and capitalism. And then there's the OAS, the Organization of American States. You know what they're doing while Haiti collapses under the weight of gang violence, crime, and complete state failure? Nothing. Zilch. Nada. We're told the OAS exists to protect and support stability in the Western Hemisphere, yet Rubio pointed out, the last time they led a mission was back in 1965. What the hell are we paying them for? To sip lattes at fancy conferences in Panama and write press releases while people in Haiti are being murdered in broad daylight? We have a full-blown gang war in our backyard. Not halfway across the world. Not in Europe. Not in Asia. But right here. And the Organization of American States is missing in action. And yet, the Biden administration keeps wiring them checks like everything's peachy.
Mr. Secretary, it's very good to have you back here. I want to say it's good to see the fauna in its natural habitat, but it's more like its former habitat, because your current one is also where you naturally belong. And I, for one, I know a majority of us feel the same way, have every confidence in your ability to serve us, and are very grateful for your service. One of the many things that I've always liked about you and I always agreed with you on is your clear-eyed vision for the Western Hemisphere. You seem to share the understanding many of us have, which is that we've been blessed as a country throughout our 250-year existence by the fact that we're protected by a big ocean to our left, another big ocean to our right, and friendly neighbors to our north and south. Those natural barriers are good for us and gave rise to the Monroe Doctrine and things like that. And I appreciate the fact that we now have a Secretary of State who understands and appreciates the importance of the Western Hemisphere. So I want to ask you where the Western Hemisphere fits relative to other regions of the globe and, with the current administration. Now, as I understand it, the America First Opportunity Fund is intended to support, quote, America's most enduring and critical partners. As you, as Secretary of State, work to realign State Department priorities and funding programs with our national interests, will the countries in our immediate periphery, those in our hemisphere, our neighbors, be counted among our most critical partners?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, by the way, the new Prime Minister of Canada was here a couple weeks ago. We had a very productive engagement with the President. Their new foreign minister is coming on board, wasn't able to join us at the NATO gathering a few days ago, but look forward to interacting with her as well. We've obviously had some disagreements with Canada with regards to the nature of trade between our countries. But I think there's hope here that we can work something out on the trade front with them, although that's not something that I'm involved in negotiating. And then we have a lot of other mutual interests. As an example, national security on our shared obligations to NORAD and the defense of the North American continent. They've been a strong partner, and we look forward to building on that. And one of the most encouraging things is that Canada, that has historically not spent a lot of money, at one point less than 1% of their GDP on the military, it's now increasing, has made a pledge to get to 2%, and has signed on to the NATO pledge to get to 5% over the next decade. So I think that's going to strengthen our partnership as well in providing security to our hemisphere.
Thank you. I want to touch next on the contributions to international organizations account. This multi-purpose account has been used to facilitate U.S. payments to over 40 international organizations. I think the current tally might be at 44. Now, as someone who has been skeptical of international organizations and the way we fund them, the way they've been used, and the way they've used our money, I very much welcome the proposed reduction in funding of international organizations. But the budget request before us mentions only the UN in that context, not the dozens of other organizations that we're also funding. As you keep up your efforts to review our participation in and funding of international organizations, can you offer us some kind of a glimpse into the universe of organizations as to which we might be terminating our funding this year?
Well, I think there are some already that we have with UNRWA and some of the other programs that we are not happy with what they do. But the assessment is very simple, and that is our participation in this organization further our national interests or not? It doesn't mean we have to agree with everything the organization does, because sometimes there's benefit to being at the table. Sometimes there's benefit to being there and being able to influence the direction that it's going. In other cases, these are just forums that are used for anti-American positioning, but we're paying for it. So you start to ask yourself, well, why are people? And in other cases, you're legitimizing it. So you look at the Human Rights Council at the United Nations, which basically doesn't do anything to sanctions. In fact, it has become a place where some of the worst human rights violators on the planet go to hide. And yet we're funding that, and we're participating and giving it credibility. So I do think there are agencies like this. And here's one that I would say, because you asked about the Western Hemisphere, and I'm not saying it's one of the ones we're going to walk away from. I'm not claiming that right now. I am saying this. We have a catastrophe in our own hemisphere right now in Haiti that we are seeking to come up with an alternative strategy, because the one that's in place right now isn't working. And Haiti's heading in a very bad direction very quickly. And everyone's bending themselves, twisting themselves into pretzels to try to figure out how can we get the United Nations or some other entity to fly a flag over the country that you could put a mission that deals with it. And I asked myself, the Organization of American States has not led a mission since 1965, I believe. Why do we have an Organization of American States if it is unable to collectively respond to what is a severe catastrophe in our own hemisphere? Again, I'm not threatening we're going to pull out of the OAS. And that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is we need to challenge some of our existing memberships to step up. Because you would think that one of the reasons why the OAS exists is to deal with a crisis like the one we have in Haiti, which is not like a crisis anywhere else, because these are not warring ideological movements. This is a country being taken over by criminal gangs. Or in fact, much of it's already been taken over by criminal gangs, and you have to deal with that very differently. And I want to say one thing here publicly. We are grateful to the Kenyans and to the mission. We remain committed to it because they've done it at great sacrifice and risk, but that mission alone will not solve this problem. And so that is one example of something that I want to see us be able to lead on, and that is to get organizations like the OAS, which we contribute to quite a bit, step forward and provide a mission with member countries, to deal with the issue of Haiti, which is about to take a very dramatic turn if not addressed very quickly.
It's a great point. I'm glad you raised OAS. I know that Lee Rizzuto, who's been named by President Trump to be our ambassador to that organization, has a vision that aligns closely with that of the president and of you, our Secretary of State. Now, the Biden administration used the Development Finance Corporation as yet another vehicle for pursuing international climate alarmism with U.S. funding. Under the Biden administration, the DFC committed $20 million for sustainable tilapia production in Kenya, $50 million to purchase new vehicles for a car rental business in Ukraine, and $350 million for wind power in Turkey. These are just a few examples. As the Trump example seeks to lean on the DFC as an alternative for foreign aid, what sorts of projects and in which regions would you advise the U.S. To fund through the DFC?
Well, I think that's first of all, the DFC obviously is independent from the Department of State, so they have an own board and an own governing structure. Although I'm a member of it, I don't control it. But I think the broader question that you're asking is exactly the point of this reorganization, and that is it will now be incumbent upon our regional bureaus and our embassies under those bureaus to identify those opportunities for us, and then to elevate that at the leadership level and say, here's what we need to be funding in this country on the basis of our interaction. For example, in the Caribbean basin, when you talk to leaders there, they will tell you their number one need is to build up the capacity of their local law enforcement so they can take on these gangs. If they can get control of the gangs and the security situation, then they can expand to economic development and things of that nature. But it's difficult to do as long as it's insecure on the ground. These are the kinds of things that we want to be able to pursue, which is why we want to empower the regional bureaus and our embassies to have a role to play in determining what we fund and what we put our money towards.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I see.
Now, let me be clear. Senator Rubio didn't say we should pull out of every international organization. What he said was more important. We should fund only what benefits America. If a group is protecting our interests, strengthening alliances, or helping fight narco gangs and terrorists in our hemisphere, fine, let's talk. But if they're grandstanding, virtue signaling, and pushing woke nonsense while failing to do their job, they get zero. And speaking of waste, here's the kicker. Rubio exposed how Biden's regime has been using the Development Finance Corporation, DFC, which should be helping our allies grow strong and independent, to fund leftist fantasies. $20 million to raise tilapia fish in Kenya. $50 million to help a car rental business in Ukraine. And the crown jewel, $350 million for wind power in Turkey. You can't make this stuff up. While we're dealing with a fentanyl crisis, rising crime, a porous southern border, and veterans sleeping on the streets, Biden is shipping your tax dollars to build windmills for Erdogan and fish farms for God knows who. Because, nothing says America first like helping some Ukrainian car rental company buy Teslas. This is lunacy. Pure, unfiltered, swamp-dripping lunacy. Meanwhile, American families can't afford groceries. Farmers are being regulated out of business. Our police departments are stretched thin. And DC elitists have the gall to tell us that our money is better spent on tilapia and Turkish windmills? Give me a break. Rubio's answer? Empower our embassies and regional bureaus. Let the folks who live and work in these regions decide what needs funding, not bureaucrats in D.C. pushing some UN-approved climate crusader agenda. We need to invest in law enforcement, gang prevention, and real-world solutions, not featherweight feel-good projects. And he's absolutely right. Because the number one concern in places like the Caribbean Basin isn't climate change. It's gangs. It's crime. It's instability. And if we want to help, if we actually want to lead, then let's help nations help themselves. Let's train cops. Let's build up justice systems. Let's clean up corruption. Not give them solar panels and wish them luck. Patriots, it's time to wake up. For too long, we've allowed our so-called leaders to bleed this country dry while funding the very institutions that spit on our flag. It's time to stop apologizing. Stop bending the knee to the globalist machine. And start putting America back where she belongs, first, always. So here's what you can do. Like this video. Share it with your family and friends. And drop a comment below. Cut the cash, save America. We need a movement. A grassroots uprising of working-class patriots who've had enough. This isn't about party. It's about preserving the republic. And here at Right View Nation, we won't stop until that message echoes across every screen in this country. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strong, and never forget, We don't answer to globalists. We answer to the Constitution. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.